Big brake kit. Did it on my car. I've done it on customers' cars. This is an '02 V70 XC. The XC70 is the same car. It's a debate. It's not even a debate. It's the same car. It's just really smart marketing on Volvo's part, and a lot of people bought into it. Either way, doesn't matter what you're going to do. 16-inch wheel, has a 280 millimeter rotor, or smaller, or maybe a little bigger. If you're going to run a 17-inch wheel or an 18-inch wheel, the small rotors look a little ridiculous inside of it. I'm running an 18-inch wheel. My 280s looked really tiny and really stupid. So to simplify things, I decided I would run the 2006 XC90 brake set because they only came with a 336 millimeter rotor on it. If you're going to run a 17-inch wheel, you're going to run a 311 millimeter rotor. Pretty easy to remember. Couple of things to keep in mind. Once you do this, you're not going back. That's it. Your 16-inch wheels won't work anymore. You're not going to use them for snow tires. I've seen guys, oh yeah, I'll get the big brake kit and I'll keep my 16s for... No, you're not. You can keep them for whatever you want, but now they're paperweights because they're never going over a 311 or a 336 millimeter rotor. Those days are done. You can keep your parts and switch back, but it kind of seems like it's going to be a pain because at that point then you need new steering knuckles because you have to drill out the holes for the caliper bracket bolts because the ones for the XC90 are bigger. So, and that's pretty much the hardest part of the whole darn job. Honestly, I did front and rears. It took me about an hour and a half to do the whole thing. That doesn't include the bleeding, which depends on who's here to help you. I've got a power bleeder, so that was quick and easy. I was done in a few minutes. Well, here, let's take a look at it. So there you go. 336 millimeter rotor and the caliper that accepts the 336 millimeter. I do believe the caliper is the same for the 311 and the 336. I think the defining difference here is going to be this bracket. That's your caliper bracket. I think that's the only difference. I would have to do a little more research on that. I decided to go with the 2006 XC90 brake setup because it was only available with 336. I may have already said that. I'm not sure. And I tend to get forgetful because all the other cars I work on. And I mean, let's be honest, the only room I walk into in my house without forgetting why I walked in there is the bathroom. So that should tell you something. But this, super easy to do. Once you have your calipers, your rotor, your pads, the only thing you're going to need, in my case, I needed a 9/16 drill bit to drill out the caliper bracket bolts back here because the stock ones are smaller. So 9/16 is the size you need for the new bolts. You just drill it straight out, you're done. Took me less than a minute. If you have a good drill bit, probably should emphasize that. New stuff. I already told you what the pads and rotors were. I ran new because the URO calipers, these are brand new. It's not a remanufactured caliper, it's just new. But again, if you want to go to the junkyard and find a 06 XC90 and put it on there, you're good to go. If you're going to run 18-inch wheels. You'll have to do your own research for the 211 millimeter rotors on what it was most common. I think it was the 05. I can't remember all these years off the top of my head. I serviced way too many of them. Other than that, yeah. I mean, once you've got your old calipers and your rotors off, you just slap this stuff on, you're good to go. You can still use your original backing plate. Obviously, you can tell it's quite a bit smaller than the new rotor. Let's take a quick peek at the back here, and I'll show you what's different about that. It's not a big deal, but you might be interested in doing it. So, I wanted to go with the XC90 rear brakes as well because, well, easy to see, the rotors are vented. Our standard rotors on our cars are solid. They tend to get a little hotter, and when I was pulling my boat, it didn't work so great. I mean, the stock brakes themselves with my boat on the back, it didn't work so great. So, if you're going to do this job, This is pretty easy as well. The biggest thing to remember is the car you're going to get the donor parts from. And again, I believe all the XC90s are exactly the same. This is the old backing plate from my car. Obviously, I still have them laying around. I did the big brake kit a while ago, but these are for the solid rotors. You have to get the backing plate from the donor XC to make the vented rotors work. Caliper you'll need as well. You can't use your stock caliper because this one's going to be wider to accommodate the wider rotor. Other than that, this is a brand new standard Volvo caliper. Nothing special there. It comes with the bracket. The rotor itself is a Zimmerman rotor, just like the fronts. The only difference really between the two setups, I have Akibono rear pads and I'm running a Brembo front pad. Yeah, so the hardest part on the back is going to be just putting this on. The e-brake setup, you can keep the e-brake setup that was in the original rotor that you would remove. They're the same. There's no difference between the two of them. So that does tend to simplify things. You'll still have to remove it to get the backing plate off, but it's pretty cut and dry. It's very simple. Trying to think anything else I might be forgetting here. I did mine pretty fast, so and it's fairly quick and easy for me because I've done it a million times. I don't know if I'm forgetting anything or not. See, told you, forgetful. Anyway, this job itself, your average DIY guy can do this in a few hours. I mean, I don't know everybody else's mechanical abilities, but it's pretty simple. The fronts, again, it's drill out the holes. For mine, it was 9/16. I don't think if you use the 311 millimeter rotors that the bolts are a different size. I think those are both the same for the 311 and 336, irregardless of the caliper. And then the back, the hardest part was, it always is, putting the backing plate on. You might run into a rusted bolt or something, depending on where you live, on the rear backing plate. Yours might just come right off. I tend to wash my car a lot. Well, I don't wash it. I go through the car wash a lot. So the salt problems we have here in Michigan, I mean, it doesn't really seem to affect my car too much because I get the good underbody wash. So, but again, just something to prepare for. If I haven't said it already, because again, I get kind of forgetful. Once you do this, you're not going back. So your 16-inch wheels, they're gone forever unless you keep all this stuff to go back. I can't think of why you would want to do that. The other thing to remember is the spare tire that's in the back of the car, you can no longer use that. If you get a flat, you got to have it towed, or you better have a spare 18-inch wheel with the correct size tire on it to keep going. These are, again, research. Know what you're getting yourself into before you do it. It's pretty simple. We don't need to complicate it or overthink it. Just remember that you're changing stuff about the car and you're going to be getting into something different. But I can tell you the stopping power is absolutely amazing. I would think you would expect that. You just bumped up your brakes considerably. The braking power is 10 times that of the old ones. I just barely have to lay my foot on the brake and this thing's coming to a stop like right now. I can't think of too much more other than that. Again, that's a pretty simple job. You just go into it with a positive attitude. I remember one of the Volvo field tech specialists that I trained under for years. He always said that if you went into a job with that, I can't do it, whatever, you're already beat, so don't even bother because the car's won. So just go into it with the I can do this easily attitude, and you can. You don't need a technician to do this job for you. Do a little research. If you have questions, for God's sakes, ask. Make sure you know your torque specs before you start it. And remember, you need the torque specs from the XC90, not the XC70 or V70 XC. So whatever car it is you're taking the stuff from, you need to know its torque specs, not your old torque specs. They don't apply anymore. Your wheel torque specs will now still be the same, but anything to do with the calipers, the caliper bracket bolts, those are going to change. I think I covered it all. It's pretty much that easy. just remember, biggest thing, you can't go back. Not unless you want to put it all back the old way, which seems kind of pointless to do it in the first place if you're going to do that. So, other than that, yeah, hey, everybody should put a big brake kit on their car. It's kind of the end thing to do now, I guess. Or not, I don't care. Just do whatever you want. Anyway, if you do it, you'll like it, you'll be happy, and if you have any questions, just send me a message. Get to it as soon as I can. Have a good one.